Let me be completely honest with you about something that happened to me. And even now, I still don't believe I did anything wrong. My name is Mallory. I'm 29, and this whole story began the day I found out I couldn't have children. I won't get into all the personal details, but let's just say choices I made before I met my husband, Tyler, caught up to me. The doctor was blunt. No babies. Ever. That news hit me like a freight train. Everything changed after that. I sat there in that cold exam room and just thought, what's the point of intimacy if I can't even build a family? That's what it's supposed to lead to, right? For years, I'd been going through the motions in my marriage, because that's what you're supposed to do as a wife. But now, with this diagnosis, I finally had a reason to stop pretending. Tyler works in logistics, moving freight around. He comes home tired every single night. I thought, honestly, this would be a relief to him. No more pressure. No more expectations. I thought I was being rational, mature, even. I was ready to focus on emotional connection, on what truly matters. So that night, when he walked through the door, I told him, we're not doing that anymore. I can't have kids, so there's no point. He just stared at me like I'd spoken in another language. He kept asking questions. What exactly did the doctor say? Could we get a second opinion? What about adoption? But I'd already made up my mind. I didn't want to raise a child that wasn't biologically mine. I didn't want to play house just to keep the illusion alive. Tyler tried to say intimacy wasn't just about having kids, that it was about connection, closeness, but I was exhausted from faking it. I told him if he truly loved me, this wouldn't be an issue. Love should be about something deeper than physical need. He looked so wounded, but I stood my ground. I explained that this was my body, my decision, and if he couldn't handle a relationship focused on emotional connection, maybe he wasn't the man I thought he was. Honestly, a part of me relished the power shift. For years, I'd catered to his needs. Now, it was time he made space for mine. He kept pushing for compromise therapies, second opinions, doctors, treatments, but I wouldn't budge. Each time, I'd remind him how hurtful it was to keep bringing it up. Why couldn't he just accept my decision? I began to see it as a test. If he truly loved me, if our marriage was built on something solid, he'd accept it. But instead, Tyler grew distant. He stopped trying. No more surprise takeout, no more Sunday brunch plans. He withdrew into himself, like he was punishing me for having boundaries. The tipping point came when he handed me a letter. Apparently, he'd started therapy alone and worked with his counselor to write it. It was polite and composed too. It said he loved me but felt like our marriage was slipping. He begged me to consider couples counseling or at least revisit treatment options. I read. It felt like manipulation, like he was suggesting I hadn't done enough, or that my boundaries weren't valid. So, I grabbed a red Sharpie and wrote across it in big, bold letters, "Go get it elsewhere, because you're not getting it from me." Then, I threw it at him and left the house, furious. I figured Tyler would back down. He was a rule follower, always trying to be the good guy. I thought this would finally make him understand how serious I was. But when I came home, he just looked up from the table, nodded, and said, "Okay." I asked, "Okay, what?" "You made your position clear," he said, "and gave me permission to handle my needs elsewhere. So that's what I'm going to do." At first, I laughed. He couldn't be serious, but he pulled out that same letter, now folded and worn, and calmly said, "You even underlined elsewhere." I tried backpedaling, telling him I was just angry and didn't mean it literally. But Tyler wasn't having it. He'd made peace with the reality I gave him. I was stunned. This wasn't he, the man I married, the one who once apologized for leaving laundry in the dryer. This man was cold, clear, and unmoved. A few months later, I found out he was seeing someone else. I wasn't supposed to find out like that, but a dry cleaner mentioned how happy he looked lately. I confronted him, and he didn't deny it. He even asked if I wanted specifics or preferred to keep it vague. His calmness made me want to scream. "You're cheating on me," I snapped. He pulled the letter from his wallet. "You told me to get it elsewhere. This is elsewhere." I cried, not because I was playing the victim, but because I was just heartbroken. I hadn't meant he should go sleep around. I just wanted him to stop pressuring me. But he asked the question that haunted me. "So you expected me to be celibate for the rest of my life?" When he put it that way, it sounded selfish. But to me, Love should have been enough. I told him I'd try counseling. Finally, I was open to compromise, but then he asked, "What's the point if the goal isn't to reconsider physical intimacy?" I said counseling was for communication, not to change my position. But he was silent. Then came the words that shattered me. "I don't think I can do that, Mal. I don't think I want to." After 3 years of marriage, this was it was devastating. I gave him a final choice: end the affair and try counseling, or I was out. He said he wouldn't end things unless I could promise counseling would lead to change. I couldn't make that promise. The following months were hell. Tyler was still living with me, but emotionally gone. He texted her in front of me, made dinner for himself, left the house without saying where he was going. When I asked, he'd just say, "Elsewhere." Our friends started picking sides. His friends knew everything about my decision. The Latans, suddenly I was the villain. My sister told me I was torturing us both by holding on. Even my mom asked, "What did you expect him to do?" Eventually, I learned who the other woman was. Her name is Brittany. Works in retail. No kids. Divorced. The complete opposite of me. Easy, undemanding, willing. And when I confronted Tyler, he said something I'll never forget. "She doesn't make me feel broken for having normal needs that cut deeper than any betrayal." Like my medical condition wasn't real. Like I was the problem. I started checking Brittany's social media. They were posting pictures at restaurants, on weekend getaways, grocery shopping together. Tyler looked lighter, freer. It was like the man I knew had been replaced with someone I didn't recognize anymore. That's when I realized I had to do something drastic. I gave him an ultimatum. Choose me or her. He shook his head and asked again, "What's the point if physical intimacy is permanently off the table?" I tried explaining we could build intimacy in other ways, but he just said, "I want to be with someone who actually wants me." He filed for divorce. 3 weeks later, it was ugly. He had documentation: my letter, therapy notes, proof that he tried everything. It made me look cold. Even my own family questioned me. I lost most of our mutual friends. They saw him as a patient, devoted husband. I was the stubborn wife who wouldn't budge. The final blow: seeing pictures of them online, in a new apartment, smiling like they hadn't wrecked 3 years of my life. Tyler looked happy, confident, like he'd finally found someone who didn't challenge him too much. Now, I live alone in the apartment we once shared, and I've stopped trying to explain myself. So now, this space is mine, not just the apartment, but this chapter of my life. I made a rational decision based on a painful truth. I wasn't broken, I set a boundary. If he couldn't handle that, he wasn't my person. Let him and Brittany enjoy their simple, surface-level happiness. As for me, I'd rather be alone than loved conditionally. I know my worth, and I'm not apologizing for protecting myself.